Now you see my house.
I saw Comrade Boyeni also had his camera on for a moment. How are you doing, Comrade?
I'm fine, my whip. How are you?
All right, all right.
I don't think I will open my camera today.
We need to see you at least when you just greet us.
No, I don't think so. I'm wearing my cap and my Juventus t-shirt.
Juventus, no, keep it close, please. We don't want to see Juventus, no.
It's a pity we as South Africans couldn't qualify to the World Cup. I'm so sad about that.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Efren, are you okay?
I'm 100% my father. I can't complain. I am here in Cape Town, busy studying. So one of these days you will hear that April has got an honors degree. And when I've got an honors degree, I'm going to say, backed up by the studies that I've completed. Comrades, please take note of my input.
We take note of your inputs now already, comrades. But keep up the good work with your studies.
Thank you, my Whoop. I will. I'm ready. I'm going to switch my camera on when you introduce us, and I will keep it off for the rest of the time.
Okay. Mr. King, are we having quorum already?
Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning, colleagues from the AG and from the department that are in the platform. Honorable members, we have just received the apology of the chairperson, who is held up somewhere. She has just indicated that she is unable to join the meeting. So according to the rules of Parliament,
Recording in progress.
in the event that the chairperson is not in attendance, members of the committee should elect an acting chairperson who must ensure that we proceed with the meeting. So what we are going to do, we will have to elect an acting chairperson to ensure that we are proceeding with our meeting. And just before we start, I would like to alert members that the meeting is live, and then whenever they will want to talk, they will have, for that particular moment, show their faces and open their cameras and then switch it off if in the case where there is a poor network. So what we are going to do right now, then I will call for members to elect the acting chairperson for this meeting.
Okay.
In the system, I'm seeing the hand of Honorable
Chair.
Honorable Bengo.
I'm suggesting the name of Honorable Faiz to be the chair of this meeting. Thank you.
Honorable members, thank you, Honorable Lubengo. The name of Honorable Jacob has been suggested. I see the hand of Honorable April.
I second the name of the Honorable Faiz Jacobs as the chairperson of this session.
The name of Honorable Jacob has also been seconded by Honorable April. Is there any name that should be suggested? I see the hand of Honorable De Villiers.
Good morning, King. I'd just like to also support the nomination, so I'm happy with it.
Thank you very much, Honorable De Villiers. I take it that there's no other name that has been suggested. Thank you, honorable members. In the event that there's no other name, so we will request the Honorable Jacobs to proceed as an acting chairperson for the session. Thank you very much. I'll fly the agenda, Honorable Jacobs, and then so that you can open the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. King, and good morning, honorable members, and thank you for your vote of confidence in me to chair today's session. I greet you all and declare the meeting open. You all are very welcome, and we want to extend a special warm welcome to our guests. This is the Portfolio Committee on Small Business. Our main purpose is to look at helping small business grow, ensuring that we create an enabling environment for small business. We believe, all of us as members, we believe small business is everybody's business. And if small business thrives, then we can grow our economy and also create jobs. So with that, a warm welcome to all honorable members, members of the department, and the meeting is now open. So with that, we have the agenda in front of us. I'll invite Mr. King to just go through roll call and apologies.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm also greeting again all the Chairperson and honorable members in the platform, colleagues from Parliament and colleagues from the entity, and from the AG. Chairperson, in the platform, I managed to admit yourself, Honorable Jacobs, Honorable Lubengo, Honorable April, Honorable Inkosul Tuli, Honorable Kruger, Honorable Mtenjane, Honorable Mieni, Honorable de Villiers, and Honorable Tlomelang. Should it happen that I missed one of the honorable members, they can indicate. And then in the question of the apology, we have received an apology of the Chairperson, Ms. Siwela, who is held up somewhere. And then I must bring to your attention, Chairperson, also that we are also having a leadership of SIDA who were keen to be part of the meeting as just to listen on the procedures of what the Auditor-General has to say. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mr. King, and we note everybody who is present and welcome again to everybody. We also note and record the apologies of our chair. Our chair is normally very diligent, and we accept the apologies that is made today. Members, I anticipate that you can see the agenda in front of you. We have a very important presentation on the AG's first report that will be presented. But before we do that, I just want to call for the adoption of the agenda as per our requirement. Is there any mover for this agenda? Or any action?
Chairperson, there's hand of Honorable April.
Honorable April.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I move for the adoption of the agenda as it is before us.
Thank you. Any seconders?
Honorable de Villiers will second.
Thank you, Honorable de Villiers. Thank you, colleagues and honorable members. So this is the agenda. We have adopted the agenda. Without wasting time, I'll invite the Auditor-General's team to lead and make presentation on the COVID findings. So over to you. Forgive me, but I don't know the team leader. So maybe Mr. King, if you can introduce him, and welcome again to this portfolio committee.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will request Ms. Griffiths as the PLO in the office of the Auditor-General. She's the one that we always communicate. So I'll give her to introduce the delegation.
Welcome, Ms. Griffiths and the team of the Auditor-General. Please, over to you. The floor is yours. Before I see there's a hand of Hein. Is it Hein? Do you still want to talk? Honorable April?
That's a legacy hand. I will remove it, Chairperson, sorry.
Okay, thank you. AG, over to you.
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning, honorable members, the colleagues from the Department of Small Business and the relevant public entities. Ms. Nakapo is my colleague. We work together. I was giving her a chance to speak, but I see now she's about to flag the presentation, so I will just proceed. With me, I also have my colleague, Kenny Mushala, who previously was in your presence presenting the audit outcomes of the portfolio of small business. Chairperson, thank you for the invitation to take you through the special audit report, which was performed on the COVID-19 initiatives. My name is Aphendule Mantiane. I am the recently appointed senior manager responsible for the portfolio of small business. So when we received the invitation, we were happy and excited because it gives us an opportunity to rather remind the members of the recommendations that we had made at the time when we presented the audit outcomes of the portfolio, such that they may be taken into consideration when you revisit the commitments and the resolutions that were made, more especially with the knowledge that the department is now going to start the process of preparation of the annual financial statements, annual performance reports that will have to be submitted by 31 May this year. Chairperson, I noted that the agenda made reference to the first special audit report. However, the contents of the presentation were taken from the second installment of the special audit report that was tabled by the Auditor-General in December 2020. However, the nature of the report was cumulative, so the issues and the contents of the first special report would have been taken into consideration, and matters that remain valid were incorporated into the second installment of the special audit report. Chairperson, without further ado, I'll just move right into the presentation. On the second slide, we have the mission and the vision of the Auditor-General, which I would just read through for purposes of noting and observation. So as the Office of the Auditor-General of South Africa, we have a constitutional mandate as a supreme audit institution of South Africa. We exist to strengthen the country's democracy by enabling oversight, accountability and governance in public sector through auditing, thereby building public confidence, which is a very impactful statement, because as an overall mission of the Auditor-General, we want to see the lives of the people of South Africa, of the general public, being impacted through the messages that we would have delivered, and enabling oversight by the relevant assurance providers and role players. And going into the special audit report, Chairperson, the purpose of the special report, when at the time it was undertaken, it was to assist government and departments to ensure that there's a quick turnaround period in responding to issues or elements of breakdown within internal controls, such that the monies that were made available to assist individuals, to assist businesses in combating some of the challenges that they experienced as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the relevant hard lockdown restrictions, were then combated. So in nature, auditing usually comes after effect, but with this initiative, the Office of the Auditor-General was able to assist government in ensuring that there was a quicker turnaround in correcting instances of breakdown in internal controls, or rather correcting and redirecting the resources and the initiatives such that the objectives of government were achieved. So the Department of Small Business was responsible for two initiatives in that time, which the first one being the Debt Relief Financial Scheme, which was discontinued on the 1st of October 2020. So we will not dwell much on this one, because, Chairperson, in the future, we don't expect to see any expenditure that relates to this particular initiative, as it was already discontinued in the 2020-21 financial period. However, what we just want to remind the members of is the fact that the department was unable to assist all the applicants that sought relief in terms of financial assistance due to the limitations in terms of the available budget, which really highlights the importance of the job that is done by the department, as well as the plight of small businesses that they experienced as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the department will have to stay close to the small business owners as they rebuild their institutions and their businesses and drive the businesses, which should have an impact in terms of employment as well as economic improvement within the country. Then the second one was the initiative on Spaza Shop Support Program, whereby the budget was about 175 million. However, only about 18 million was successfully dispatched to the deserving participants as at 31 March 2021, which only accounted for about 10% of the available budget. And this is rather an unfortunate instance with our country when we have so much challenges when it comes to issues of poverty. Chairperson, I recall growing up that there were a lot of, in the villages, there were a lot of shops that were owned by local business owners, which helped really a great deal with reducing instances of poverty within the rural and township areas. And this was somewhat a measure of success and would be coming from respectable families. So the department really needs to intensify its footprint and promote awareness of the programs that are targeted at rural and township development. Moving to the next slide, Chairperson, as at 1 October 2021, the Spaza Shop initiative had now been successfully made available through online platforms where participants or potential beneficiaries could apply online. And there were a few candidates that responded to the campaigns or promotional campaigns by the department. However, at the time, there were no funds that were successfully approved and dispatched as a result of these online platforms that were made available. And in our knowledge, in this particular initiatives was then later transferred to NetBank by the department. So now the applicants, they have to go through NetBank in terms of the application processes and whether then they successfully go through and then they receive the particular funds. We will follow up on the progress that has been made by department, if any, during the course of the audit. We have just recently started with the 21-22 audit, and therefore we don't really have insights for now in terms of what developments have been made and if any changes have really occurred. But in our knowledge is that now the program is run through the NetBank. The risk which we highlighted at the time was the issue of double dipping, whereby you find people or individuals that are unduly benefiting from multiple schemes, which hinders really the government initiatives or objectives to ensure that the programs are targeted to those that are disadvantaged and actually alleviate the issues of poverty. So you would find that there are people that are benefiting from the Spaza Shop programs and also double dipping from the social development 350 grant, which results to people being unduly benefiting from these schemes. And then we further highlight again that only 10% of the Spaza Shop budget was utilized and successfully dispatched to the deserving beneficiaries. On the case of the debt relief program, 100% of the available budget was made available to deserving participants, which supported about 1,144 small, medium enterprises, thereby protecting and saving jobs of about 16,544 South African residents or individuals, which is really a great deal, Chairperson. And also we're highlighting again that only 3% of the applicants could be assisted. And as I've already alluded, this just further highlights the job that still needs to be done by the Department of Small Business in assisting small enterprises. Moving to the next slide, we had made recommendations, Chairperson, for the department to implement such that there can be a turnaround on the audit outcomes that were presented as part of the BRRR presentations, one of which we mentioned that there is a required agency by management to respond to the risks as well as the control deficiencies that are identified through the audit process. Chairperson, as management now are going to embark on preparation for the submission of the annual financial statements for 21-22. So the relevant bodies or assurance providers need to stay close to the process and understand that the issues that were highlighted as risks in the prior year have been really addressed and the outcomes thereof have been achieved. Furthermore, we highlighted, Chairperson, the heightened need by management to monitor and review supporting evidence in support of the achievements that are reported in the annual performance report. This also can be done by ensuring these annual performance reports are completed within time, such that internal audit can be given an opportunity to review and express and provide an assurance on whether the information presented is actually in accordance with the relevant framework in terms of performance reporting. So perhaps the management can look into saying they have to target to complete the preparation and their necessary verifications by a particular period, which should give internal audit sufficient time to then also perform procedures to be able to provide assurance on the reliability of the annual performance reports that are being produced within the portfolio. Chairperson, we further highlighted that there was absence of post-site visits, which might have been attributable to the lockdown restrictions, as we were still under, on instances, we were still under hard lockdown restrictions. However, Chairperson, then that meant there's a risk that the department is losing out on the opportunity to ensure that the relevant funds that are made available or financial assistance is actually achieving the intended purpose and the desired impact, and the impact thereof can be seen on the lived experiences of the public. And that information could be further used to reflect on the initiatives that are put together by the department to see if they are actually being effective in addressing the plight of the South Africans. Chairperson, we also highlighted that the issue of vacancies that are not being timelessly filled, which we are still going to reflect upon when we go to the segment for our status on the commitments and recommendations. We further also highlighted the need and importance to track action plans that have been designed to address and respond to the risk and deficiencies in internal controls to prevent the reoccurrence of findings, as something that was noted in the previous financial cycle when we audited, that recurring findings were still coming through in terms of the audit issues that were reported in the 2020-21 cycle. So, Chairperson, we reflected that as a status, there was still a low response in terms of from the Department of Small Business as well as CEDA in terms of addressing issues that were previously reported as they were recurring. And this is something we will be able to confirm whether it has been resolved or not when we complete the execution of the audit for 21-22 financial cycle. And further, Chairperson, on the issue of vacancies in the office of CEDA relating to the CFO, CEO, and CIO and the other positions, those positions still remain vacant, and the envisaged merger between the small enterprise finance agency as well as the cooperative development agency, we've been made aware that the department requested an extension from the cabinet, as they are still busy with the process of putting together the enabling legislation, which then means these vacancies remain remain in the institutions, and the desired impact in terms of ensuring that these institutions are sufficiently resourced with skilled and capable individuals to execute and take forward the mandate of the entity. That particular then objective may not have been achieved as at 31 March 2022, which is something that we expect to see coming through as a result in terms of issues that we'll be identifying in the process of the audit for 21-22. And Chairperson, we also are concerned that action plans were designed and they are being implemented and monitored. However, the impact and the effectiveness thereof will only be confirmed upon us completing the execution of the audit for the period of 21-22. So as it stands, we're just aware that the action plans were designed and they are being implemented as well as monitored. However, we're looking forward to access the effectiveness thereof in the form of not realizing new audit findings as well as not identifying recurring findings. And then moving to the next slide. Chairperson, as I've already mentioned, that there was an issue of absence of post-site visits. We then recommended that the accounting officer should ensure that this particular post-site visits take place, and whenever they occur, the relevant supporting documents should be kept in place such that the achievements and the information that will be presented in the annual performance report can be substantiated with valid supporting evidence to confirm validity, accuracy, and completeness thereof. We further just recommended to the minister that the minister should request the accounting officer to account and give feedback on the progress and the progress as well as implementation of audit action plans, and with emphasis on effectiveness thereof, to ensure that then the department achieves and improves in terms of the audit outcomes as well as the matters of service delivery. Coming to the recommendations that were made to accounting officers as well as accounting authorities from the relevant public entities, we further recommended that the accounting officers and authorities should really place emphasis on the design and implementation of appropriate preventative controls, which we're also going to cover extensively on the slide around guidance on preventative controls. And we encourage that there must be effective review of the internal controls on annual financial statements. Chairperson, this is also something that is done through the internal audit as part of their responsibility. Internal audit is responsible to review internal controls and report to the audit committee. And then the accounting officer can use those insights to drive and improve the internal controls within the institution to ensure that the department or the institution is able to drive and implement the mandate thereof, as well as ensure adequate reporting in terms of financial reporting as well as annual performance reporting. Then we further raised the importance of developing and closely monitoring the action plans, which have confirmed now that they have been developed, they are being implemented. And as of now, we will then only be able to confirm effectiveness of when we complete the execution of the audit for 21-22. On the issues of consequence management, we recommended that whenever there's instances that of non-compliance or lack of performance, then consequence management must be applied. And the consequence management is not necessarily intended to get people fired, but rather to equip and rebuild and address areas of concern, because after having implemented the necessary consequence management, the accounting officers will be able to understand the shortcomings and the reasons behind those shortcomings, such that then the teams can be provided and with the necessary training, equipping them to be able to execute their duties to the best of their ability. And obviously, in instances where there's intentional malpractice, then the accounting officer can take the necessary actions. And then lastly, we recommended that vacancies must be filled timelessly to avoid the necessary skills not being available to help the institutions advance the implementation of their mandate. And Chairperson, moving to the next slide, we also had recommendations for the portfolio committee, whereby we recommended that the committee should follow up with the executive authority as well as the accounting officer on the progress that has been made in the implementation of audit action plans, monitor the vacancy rates within the different institutions within the portfolio of small business, and also ensure that compliance with legislation matters are being addressed and the relevant controls are being put in place to then avoid further incurring any instances of non-compliances that are avoidable. And we also, as a recommendation to the portfolio committee, indicated that the committee should follow up on the issue of mitigation of controls in response to the cyber risk that was identified at CEDA. So we also encourage the culture of consequence management that should be enforced within the portfolio to ensure that there's understanding that lack of performance and non-compliance will not be tolerated, and in the event that resources or staff need to be capacitated, they are then provided with the necessary training to equip themselves such that they are able to perform their day-to-day duties. And where there's malpractice, then consequences in accordance with the policies of the department are applied. And moving to the next slide, Chairperson, we then have a guide on preventative controls. Sorry. So the importance of this slide on preventative guidelines is to ensure that we support the committee by empowering the members and sharing information that such that the members are enabled to ask appropriate actions and hold the officials from the institutions within the portfolio accountable. So Chairperson, if I may move to the next slide, preventative controls are mechanisms, procedures that are put in place to assist steer the direction and the activities that are undertaken by the departments or by the entities to ensure that ultimately at the end of the day, the objective and the mandate of the institutions are being achieved. So as part of these preventative controls, institutions must have certain business processes to ensure that there's understanding of how things are being done. There's resources in terms of people that have the skills and the experience and the know-how in terms of how to execute those particular duties within their area of responsibility. For example, within the supply chain management unit, there must be sufficiently skilled people that have the knowledge and understanding of the relevant enabling legislation that drives supply chain management. And as such, then the department needs to be intentional about the annual procurement plan and not put it together as a means of compliance exercise, but rather with understanding that any matters that are outside of emergency will not then be included in terms of annual of procurement if they are not in the annual performance procurement plan. This helps the department steer away from instances or opportunities for officials to then end up resulting or causing non-compliances. There should also be a proper monitoring of legislations, and where there's amendments, these amendments should then be brought to the forefront such that the relevant policies and procedures are updated to drive and implement the updated and amended key legislation. Chairperson, as an example, there was an update on the irregular expenditure framework, which would then necessitate an update on the irregular expenditure policy and all the other policies that are impacted by that particular framework. to respond to those particular requirements in terms of the revised irregular expenditure framework. And then the department would have to put together the respective committees that would be responsible for evaluation of the bids and adjudication of those bids in line with their delegations, which would have been provided to them by the accounting officer. And in the event where there's deviations, these deviations should only be under the strict conditions that are allowed in the treasury regulations, which are only limited to emergencies and instances where the particular service provider is a sole provider for that particular service or those goods. And Chairperson, then the relevant assurance providers should play the role of interrogating and ensuring that compliance is being adhered to at all times. It's not something that is tolerated, and when it does happen that there's non-compliance, consequence management is applied. And there should also be contract management. So from the beginning, when contract is being awarded, then these contracts should be recorded in the contract register, which will be maintained and updated regularly from the date of the award to the time when money is being spent and when it's going to expire, such that when the time for expiration is coming up soon, then the department can start with the relevant processes to procure and ensure that there are no non-compliances as a result of poor project management. But of further importance with contract management, Chairperson, is to ensure that there's performance monitoring to ensure that service providers are adhering and delivering on their services that they have been committed to, and when they fail to provide those services, then the department or the institutions are able to hold them accountable. Then moving to payments, there should be segregation of duties from the people that are responsible for supply chain management to the people that then process payments. So there will be a person responsible to receive the particular services and certify that those services as having been received, and therefore the relevant claims against the department being valid. And then the other officials will be responsible for processing the payments and capturing them on the system. And there should be other people that are responsible for reviewing these particular payments on the system. And also controls surrounding the system of payments, whereby access is limited based on the responsibilities and the authority that is allowed per official or individual within their area of responsibilities. And then there should also be policies for asset management, and just in a nutshell, with asset management and liability management, the assets, there's a requirement in the PFMA for accounting officers to ensure safeguarding of assets. So to help drive that, there should be an asset management policy, people that are responsible really to, from time to time, perform physical verification of assets, as well as perform reconciliation of the fixed asset register to the relevant records. And then lastly, Chairperson, there's revenue management, which is not so much of a significant issue for the Department of Small Business as a separate institution, but rather maybe for SIDA and CIFA, this may be relevant, where the institutions are required to ensure that they collect all the monies that are due to the institutions, to ensure that the fiscus has the relevant funds to discharge the mandates and the objectives of government. So with preventative controls, we then have key role players in terms of ensuring strong control environment, and that's with senior management through the delegations that they receive from the accounting officer. Management are responsible for preparing the financial statements, annual performance reports, and ensure compliance with applicable laws within their areas of responsibility. And as such, they need to establish and maintain adequate internal controls over financial reporting, annual performance reporting, as well as compliance management, which is informed by ensuring that there's sufficiently skilled and experienced resources that are discharging those duties on the day-to-day basis. There's also systems put in place for purposes of financial reporting, annual performance reporting, which really assist the department in driving and ensuring clean administration and ensuring that the reports that are produced in terms of financials are in compliance with the relevant reporting frameworks as well as the performance framework. And there should also be policies that explain in terms of the guides that need to be followed when the officials are executing their duties. And from time to time, these officials will have to receive a training to assist them to ensure that they are performing their duties within their relevant line of duty. And then we have the slide on fundamentals of strong preventative controls, whereby leadership should inspire a culture of ethical behavior and commitment to good governance. I think I mentioned earlier that consequence management is key to ensure that there's understanding that non-compliances and lack of performance will not be tolerated in the portfolio. So this helps really position the leadership in terms of sending the message that the culture of ethical behavior and commitment is a non-negotiable. And there should also be adequately and sufficiently skilled officials, as I have alluded, in terms of the Office of the CFO, the person responsible for collating and verifying annual performance information, and ultimately put together the consolidated reports in terms of the annual performance report, policies and procedures being made available, and then the systems that are then made available to ensure that the drive to implement controls around financial reporting and annual performance report are sufficiently and adequately resourced. And then moving to, I think, what is going to be our last section of the presentation. As part of our enhanced powers and responsibilities as the Office of the Auditor-General, we are now driving the presentation of what we call accountability ecosystem. The accountability ecosystem is to assist the committee to understand the role of the Auditor General as well as an assurance provider, as well as the role of other assurance providers in addressing matters of service delivery. An audit opinion alone cannot be used as a measure to determine achievement of service delivery and the resultant impact on the lived experiences of the general public. As the Office of the Auditor General, when we perform the audit of predetermined objectives on whether indicators are smart in terms of usefulness and the reported achievements can be verified against supporting evidence, which we call a reliability thereof. We, however, do not express any opinion on the achievement of the particular service delivery targets. We just simply note that the particular achievements should be read together with the findings which we would have included in the audit report, such that users of the annual performance report understand whether the information being provided is useful or not. So in the accountability ecosystem, we have members such as the senior management, which I've already alluded that they are responsible for the preparation of the annual financial statements, annual performance report, as well as ensuring compliance with applicable legislation within their areas of responsibility. But over and above that, you also have the internal auditors, and internal auditors have a responsibility to provide assurance on the adequacy of internal controls of the department to enable a conducive environment to discharge and achieve the mandate of the Department of Small Business, CEDA, CFI, and all the institutions within the portfolio. So the internal audit. The internal auditors then are in a position to be able to come before the portfolio committee and account on the state of internal controls within the institutions to assist and equip the members with information in terms of holding the officials of the department responsible. And from time to time, we've observed as the Auditor General that internal auditors on account, they either do not receive information on time to be able to discharge their responsibilities in other institutions in general, or they their recommendations are not taken seriously by management. So it would also give them an opportunity to raise those matters before the portfolio committee and would assist the committee in ensuring that the department and the relevant institutions are being held accountable for lack of implementation of recommendations for internal audit or for not making information available. And this is something that is applicable to government as a whole, not specifically to the Department of Small Business. And further on that, we also have the Audit Committee, and the Audit Committee really needs to understand the mandate and the business processes of the department. They need to interrogate and give guidance as well as input on the design plans of the institution to ensure achievement of the relevant mandate, such that they can analyze and understand if these plans are adequate. They're in a position to be able to ensure the improvement in terms of small medium enterprises or the rural and township economies as an example. Furthermore, we also have the Department of Monitoring and Planning, which can also be called upon. The particular department is responsible for at times analyzing annual performance reports and strategic plans of different institutions and provide input in terms of whether these plans are appropriate to achieve the National Development Plan with the assistance of the Department of Presidency. So they do make recommendations, but as to whether their recommendations are being implemented or not, that is something which they do not have powers over. So if they are given an opportunity to come before the portfolio committee, then they can enlighten the committee as to whether the plans within the portfolio are adequate to help drive the achievement and the implementation of the National Development Plan. And also, we've noted that the Department of Planning and Monitoring has also evaluated the performance of government against the National Development Plan, from where they've noted that government is really far behind in terms of achieving the objectives and the goals as outlined in the National Development Plan. And with that, it would assist if the portfolio committee gives them an opportunity to really say if there's anything that can be done within the portfolio to help fast track the implementation of these initiatives that are set to achieve the National Development Plan as well as the goals. And see then the impact on the lived experiences, where we will see growth on the township and rural economies, where you will see small medium enterprises thriving, and where we envisage to see the economy really growing and us building from here moving forward. And Chairperson, I think I have come to the end of my presentation, and thank you very much for the opportunity. So I will stop here and then take direction from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. From the AG, it's very comprehensive. Now I will invite members to engage with the presentation. Members, here we have the report. The report reflects the second installment since December 2021. I see two hands, so let me record. It's Honorable Hendricks and then Honorable De Villiers, in that order.
Thank you very much, Honorable Acting Chair and Whip, for chairing the meeting and the way you're handling this meeting. And we wish you everything of the best for the rest of this very important session. And we know that you'll make the cut. Honorable Chair, I'd like to thank the Auditor-General for their report. And we really depend on them because SHIDA and SHIFA, our constituency officers, not only in the Western Cape, but in other parts of the country, accused them of fraud and corruption and all kinds of things that we all know about, and we understand there are quite a number of disciplinary taking place. It is my job and the other honorable members to play oversight. And that's why, and also to promote and also let the the parliament to the people, take the opportunities from small business to the people. And you, Chief Whip, have been doing that in the Cape Flats. And sometimes, we did it jointly. Al-Jama's also done it on its own. We got the deputy minister to come to Mitchell's Plain. We had 2 sessions which we sponsored. We paid for the venues, the meals, the transport. Outside the Western Cape, we also had several of these sessions where Sheeda was so kind to come out and explain to the community what they can apply for in terms of loans and grants and opportunities. Yeah, so it was also agreed that parliamentary constituency officers must extend the footprint of CEDA, which is largely information educational. So we've done that, and once we have brought everything together, we leave everything in the hands of CEDA and later CIFA. This is non-political party stuff. It's a parliamentary constituency office. People come from all different political parties to the events. We don't ask them which political party they come from. And I think you, Whip, would do the same. So we had, to cut a long story short, as a result of all these interventions, 10 people were chosen from the Cape Flats who best qualified for grants or loans. So I played my oversight role and watched this from the outside. And we discovered that CIFA in the Western Cape is still very corrupt. The person that CEDA obviously refers the applications to CIFA and they take it forward. So CEDA sent the best 10 applicants of the 100 that we had to CIFA. And we were monitoring it very closely because that's my oversight role. And we found that CIFA, the person that represented CIFA in the CIFA office in Cape Town, in our view, was corrupt. And those 10 applicants, one of them gave a statement on how corrupt CIFA is. And we gave that statement to the leadership in CIFA and CEDA in Cape Town. And we hope they're going to act on it because I don't want to go into the details, but it's the most corrupt that I've personally now observed. And there's a statement. We've got the name of the person who gave the statement, his contact details. We are not investigators, Honorable Chair, but we've given it to the Mr. Kunta of CEDA, who told us which person of CIFA is the culprit. And we even engaged him. And we just hope that something will be done about it. So coming back to the Auditor-General, how can the Auditor-General have audit action plans to prevent this type of thing on the ground? I know you do your audits at set times, but in between these audits, all this corruption takes place, and I can't expect you to pick up everything. And that's why honorable members have an important role to play. And we've heard about this corruption of CIFA, but we had no tangible case study. Here we've got a case study of 10 people, and at least one of them have explained to us just how corrupt CIFA is. So please, I want this to be noted. And CIFA, I hope CIFA is in the meeting, the leadership, and I hope they will take action. There has been a lot of improvement with CEDA and CIFA. And we are very happy about that. But it seems here in Cape Town that they are so corrupt. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Hendricks. Certainly, that is serious allegations, and we hope we can be able to get feedback on that. Honorable de Villiers.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning, honourable members and all others attending the meeting. I would just like to say that according to this report, and this is how I understand it, 316 million rand was spent on the debt relief finance scheme, but there was a budget of 513 million rand. So that's a 61% spend. On the Spaza Shop Support Program, I think there's a 10% spend. So this is obviously a quite remarkably sad state of affairs when you know there's business that needs to be dished out to small business. There's money that needs to be and funds that needs to be dished out to small businesses and spaza shops to assist them, and it just doesn't reach them. So I would like to just understand what recommendations, because I didn't see any specific recommendations by the AG is being done, and what is the root cause of why this is happening? Is this corruption? Is it just you know, what is the problem here? Why is the money not reaching these people? And then secondly, I would like to know from the AG, the businesses and that were helped, the people that did receive money, were those lists verified and audited by the Auditor-General? Do we know who the businesses are? Because the committee has not been privy to that information, even though we have asked it on various occasions. So does the AG have a list of all the businesses and their directors and their shareholders and their names that were helped by the debt relief finance scheme and that were helped by the Spaza Shop Support Program? And was that list audited? Was the legitimacy of those businesses confirmed? Then a second issue, in the legacy report that was given to this committee, which is now the 6th Parliament committee, it was noted that there's an outstanding forensic report from the 5th Parliament on the Department of Small Business Development. And to this day, we have not received this outstanding forensic report that is supposed to be done by the AG. When can we expect this forensic report to be finalized, and when can we expect to see it? And then lastly, the report talks about the important filling of key vacant positions which should be filled, which I think we can all agree with. Important positions like CEO and CFO or any executive positions, leadership positions need to be filled and need to not be vacant and need to not be temporary. But what I don't see in the report is an actual list saying these are the key positions which are currently vacant, which we recommend should urgently be filled. So can the AG just maybe shed some light on what are those key positions which are still vacant, which needs to be filled? And with that, Chairperson, I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable de Villiers. I note the next following hands, Honourable Bridget Tlomelang and Honourable Heinrich April, and then also yeah, those are the two hands. I see a Mr. Butleli, but we'll come back to that. For now, Honourable Bridget Tlomelang, the floor is yours. Tuli. Okay. Noted, Honourable Nkosi Tuli.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. I hope, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, and we can also see you very clearly. Please proceed.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chair. Let me also start by appreciating the report from the AG's office chairperson. But however, Chair, in my accepting of the report, there are a number of issues that I've picked through where Mr. de Villiers left it. On the issue of my interest, basically, is on the support to small businesses. Chairperson, during the presentation, I learned that 513 million was budgeted for, and only 316 million was utilized, which means there is under expenditure. Also, the same applies to spaza shops. of which the allocation of 175 million was allocated, and not all, only 18 expenditure is only 18 million. My question, Chairperson, on this one, it's, I want to check because there is under expenditure, and generally we have a problem whereby our small businesses, including the spaza shops, are suffering. They don't get enough support. In one of the slides, I've picked that only 10% did manage to get the support program from the department and the entities. So I just want to check, Chairperson, with the AG, that is it possible for us to redirect these funds because they were allocated specifically for the two programs? Because to me, my worry is we must not allow the money that is to be taken back, whereas our people and small businesses are suffering. We must understand the remedial action, the actual action, Chairperson. And I think this report is an eye-opener, because when you look at the challenges, I think initially we had a problem whereby we were saying that most of the spaza shops are owned by foreigners. But our constituencies have done a lot of work. We have encouraged people to own their spaza shops, and so that we are able to assist them through the offices. But this thing of online platform, Chairperson, we need to utilize the constituency offices, the district model, working with the local municipalities, because our people are used to contact. This thing of online system application is not helping. I think maybe the AG office can advise us how best can we deal with it. My second question, Chair, which is my last one. Planned on the slides that funds were approved supporting 114 for SMMEs, Chairperson, and projecting that the 16,544 jobs were supposed to be created. How does the AG, Chairperson, going to help us how to check the reliability of this job creation according to the speculated number? And do we have any remedial actions? Can they help us? Which actions can we take and advise us? Because I saw the remedial actions. To me, they are not speaking actually what is the exact that is the department and the entities are intending to do with all this crisis and under expenditure, whereas small businesses are dying every day. Is it realistic that if we could have supported that 1,144 SMMEs, could they have created 16,544 jobs? If it's realistic, then what is the problem that we didn't support those SMMEs? What is it that can be done so that we're able to create this 16,544 jobs? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable April.
Chairperson, thank you for the opportunity. I would like to firstly welcome the report as it has been given to by our Auditor-General. And I would like to thank her that in the small space of time that she's been appointed, that she has also come up with such a comprehensive report that could cover many aspects that has been of concern to the portfolio committees, both in the fifth administration and coming over to the sixth administration. However, one would take it that it would be that the purpose of the Auditor-General is to report to us as far as what is the findings in the department, and most of the questions that has been asked to the Auditor-General is actually questions that I would say should have been answered by the department as it were. I am particularly concerned and want to raise this unequivocally in this portfolio committee, that when we do come with questions that relates to corruption or malfeasance in any state department, we have the fiduciary responsibility upon ourselves to ensure that these are reported to the police and that investigations take place on. We should not come onto the platform and just broadly say that people are corrupt without going to the police, opening charges against them. I think it's part of our fiduciary responsibility as parliamentarians to represent our people in all spheres. You must remember that there's three hands of government, and one of them is the judiciary, which should be used when we are going to label anyone as being corrupt. I would like to, however, ask the Auditor General to explain to us how she would rate the consequence management and accountability in the department. The consequence management seems like people can do just what they want, and they underspend, in some places overspend, and there must be consequences. And I would just want the Auditor General to explain to us the accountability mechanism for consequence management. How does it look like in the department? In the AG's view, the department reported in our last meeting that it obtained a clean audit for non-financial performance, but not for the financial performance. The department seems to be struggling to obtain a clean audit on the financial performance. What could be the root cause of this? What kind of capacity or resources do they need in the department to ensure their financial performances are clean? When we speak about that department, we are specifically referring to the small enterprise, to CIFA, when we talk about finances. But it is overseen by the department as a whole. So AG, as I would have it, I want to thank you for reporting to the portfolio committee. I think most of the questions that we have this morning should have been answered by the department itself, but your report is absolutely welcome. Let me just say lastly, I have heard about the appointment of independent forensic investigators that is investigated. Do you have such a report in your that information that you got from the independent forensic investigations? I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable April. Honorable Nkosili Tulu.
Thank you, Chair. Some other questions have been asked already. I will not ask more than what is asked by my colleagues. But to you, Chair, sometimes you can give me an advice. Where can you complain if a person is applied and then their application is turned down, although the business is viable, but nobody want to listen, like CIFA and CETA. How can we do it about? Only that question, sir, because directed to you, because that one is specific to the government. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Nkosili Tuli. Let me try to answer your question, and then I'll hand over to the AG. I think I just want to also comment before we give to the AG that I think there's a lot of questions, and we want to thank you for the report. And I think for us, the report does give us valuable insights. Certainly, as this portfolio committee, we want stronger consequence management. We are concerned about the under expenditure. Access to finance for people is very important, and it's almost a sin. In fact, I think all of us, I can speak on behalf of all of us, where we say that if money has been budgeted for and it's not being spent, South Africans are wary, and we pay our officials good money so that they can be diligent in spending the money. So these two portfolios, we are concerned that access to finance had to come through the department and the agencies. We are concerned that the money wasn't spent. We also are concerned that the banks, the big banks, also didn't provide necessary support for small business during the COVID period. The president did have the presidential stimulus package of 200 billion rand should be made available, accessible loans, and our banks also didn't come to the party on this. We are concerned about the spaza shop program, because we want South Africans to buy South African products it at a local level in our townships, in our dorpies, in our villages. And so therefore we are appreciative that it started. I think 50% now out of the 9,000 applicants of the spaza shops, about 5,000 have been approved and 4,000 have not been approved. And I think Honorable Kosi Lutuli's question about where do small business find recourse if they get rejected or they don't get a positive answer from CIFA and CEDA? What is the recourse? And I think as this portfolio committee, I think we must be that recourse. So Honorable Nkosi Lutuli, if you can give the specifics to our officials in this portfolio committee, just like Honorable Hanif, if you can also share with our portfolio committee the allegations of mismanagement and corruption, we will, as part of our oversight responsibility as this portfolio committee with all of you as our members, we will certainly follow up. I think there's a strong agreement that consequence management must happen. So I think we will get an opportunity to engage all of these questions to the relevant authorities and accounting officers, the DG, the ministers. But I think today's session is just for us as members to get direct feedback from the AG. So we welcome you, Ms. Patinyani, from the AG's office for your report, and we now invite you to provide responses or further clarities as members have outlined. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, through you, I think I want to re-emphasize that this installment of the report was first published and tabled by the Auditor-General in December 2020. So that is the 2020-21 financial cycle. And the status quo that was presented as part of the BRRR presentation was as at 31 March 2021. So, Chairperson, if we then go back and address the questions that have been asked by the members, the first one relating to the recommendations and action plans that should be put in place to prevent corruption and fraud. As a start and a general rule, prevention of corruption and fraud is not the responsibility or within the mandate of the Auditor-General. It is a duty that is assigned to the accounting officer through the PFMA legislative requirements, from which they need to put in place systems and policies in place that promote ethical behavior and really go about making available platforms where corruption can be reported, and instances that have been reported in terms of allegations are then followed up and investigated, and based on the outcomes of those investigations, then the accounting officer would implement the necessary recommendations from the report, which could range from your disciplinary processes and recovery of the funds where applicable. So as the Office of the Auditor-General, and this being a risk that is now raised in this platform, we then have a responsibility to go back and design procedures to respond to this particular risk. As part of this initiative or task, we assess management's implementation of consequence management to say, this was something that was brought to your attention, what have you done to address it? And once the non-compliance is confirmed as being valid, we then, as our added powers in terms of the PAA amendment, which came into effect in 1 April 2019, we then have to take those matters of non-compliance through the material irregularity processes to see if they are met or not, whereby then if they are met, we would then start issuing material irregularity notifications to the accounting officer. As at this moment, the Department of Small Business as well as the relevant entities are not scoped in for implementation of these PAA amendments. However, in the event that we come across a non-compliance or an act that warrants us to really explore the PAA amendments, regulations, and the powers that have been made available to us. That does not prevent us from then applying it and taking it through these processes, from which, if confirmed to be valid, we would then have to issue that material irregularity to the accounting officer and bring it to the attention of all oversight role players, such as yourselves, as well as other role players, including the executive authority. I think that's the gist of our responsibilities when it comes to this area of responsibility. And then coming to the expenditure of the budget, which was made available for initiatives relating to debt relief schemes, as well as the Spaza Shop support program. On the debt relief support program, we indicated that about 300 million on average was spent, because that's the amount as at 30 December 2020, when we presented the second installment of the special report that had been made available to us as part of the audit process. So therefore, that was verified and confirmed to have complied with the relevant processes and policies that were put in place in terms of the application framework, the approval process, and then the money being made available to the deserving participants. However, as at 31 March, we then confirmed that 100% of that budget was dispatched to the deserving beneficiaries, and that formed part of the normal audit processes, which we performed as part of our audit. And on that, we provided reasonable assurance that no issues of material misstatement were identified in terms of the reporting accounting framework, which is the modified cash standards in the case of the department. So that particular budget was spent overall as a whole and was made available to the deserving participants, except unfortunately it was only about 3% of the applicants that submitted that could successfully be supported through that initiative. And we've alluded to the challenges which that represents, because it means about 97 of those then still remained without the required support. And it means those employees that were dependent on that scheme, or that we had wished would be paid based on that scheme, potentially lost their jobs, which further and increases the plight of unemployment within the country. And that is not a really desirable picture that we want to see. Then coming to the issue of Spaza Shops, whereby only 10% was discharged and made available to the applicants. So with each initiative of funding that is made available, Chairperson, there needs to be processes that have to be followed to ensure that the applicant validates that this is actually a Spaza Shop that is in existence. It's not just established to take advantage of these funds and abuse them, and then not follow up and really continue in business, because that was the whole point of supporting Spaza Shops, is to ensure though there is these hard lockdown restrictions and the conditions that are being experienced, but they are still able to continue in business and be able to provide the relevant supplies to their communities within their location. So as part of those processes, the department would have reviewed the applications, and for reasons which can be non-compliant with some of the stipulations or conditions that were made on the application process, or failure to support the relevant adequate supporting evidence, then some of them were not successfully approved for awarding the funds relating to Spaza Shop support initiative. And also, as a root cause, I think I mentioned in my presentation that there was a challenge with regards to uptake of the initiative and applications that were received from potential service providers or individuals that have Spaza Shops and that would like the assistance in terms of these funds being made available to them. The department went as far as making the platforms available online to assist with the process of application. as at the time movement was limited to a certain extent. However, there was also really not a much uptake from the public in terms of the applications that were received. And unfortunately, those that actually submitted, they also did not meet the conditions that were set about to govern and regulate this process of awarding support to spaza shops within the rural and township locations. So with that, Chairperson, we at this stage as the Office of the Auditor-General do not have an update in terms of what might have transpired since the last time we engaged the department in terms of this particular initiative, which was at 31 March. So there might be more information that is available from the side of the department, which they can assist to bring about to say, has perhaps now the department been able to discharge up to what percentage of the budget that was made available? And I think there was also a question to say, is it possible to redirect these funds to other initiatives that are targeted to advance these particular communities? Chairperson, I did mention that the program itself was then shifted or moved to Nedbank, which is a financial institution, and as a financial institution, they already have processes in place and internal controls to assist them with the process of application and approval, as well as award of these financial schemes. And also as a secondary role, then they can also monitor that these funds are being used for the intended purpose. Chairperson, I hope I've done justice to that particular question, and members can perhaps also follow up with the department in terms of where they are with this particular program, especially the spaza shop support program. And I do recall or have knowledge that the department does continue to support small businesses in other initiatives other than the debt relief financial scheme. There's also incentives that are being made available through the programs of the department, which we will also be able to provide insights and in terms of how those have been implemented and if the funds have been made available to the public, and if the public has really enjoyed the benefits of these funds and the support of the department when we complete the 21-22 financial cycle execution of the audit. And then there was a question around forensic report from the Auditor-General. Chairperson, I have to apologize and request for your indulgence on this one. I'll have to go back and gather my bearings in terms of the status quo on that one, as me being new in the position, I had no knowledge or prior knowledge of this particular information. And then at a later stage, once I've managed to gather that information, we'll write back to the portfolio committee and give the status quo in terms of that process of forensic investigation. And then there was a question around vacancies and us perhaps not really indicating which positions were vacant. And on slide 8, Chairperson, paragraph 2 of the status quo, we mentioned that at CEDA, the position of the CFO, the position of the CEO, CIO, as well as the head of strategic planning, head of supply chain management remain vacant, while at the Department of Small Business, there were 2 positions in the level of DDGs that were also vacant, as well as a chief director position. So we did specify PEPs. I did not go through them in detail to confirm that these are the positions which we are making reference to when we talk about vacancies that are not being timelessly filled. And I did also mention that as a status quo, we have also been made aware, even though this is something we have not verified on our own, that the department requested an extension in terms of the merger that was planned between Small Enterprise Finance Agency as well as the Cooperative Bank Development Agency into the Small Enterprise Development Agency as at 1 April 2022. Since the department is still busy with the enabling legislation, and as such, then the filling of those positions for now has been put into has been paused, really, such that the merger can then take place and a new structure for the Small Enterprise Development Agency would then be put together in its new transformed platform and mandate, Chairperson. And then there was remedial action relating to the understanding, which is noted on the as a shops program, because I've explained that the debt relief program, the money was used up to 100% of the available budget. Chairperson, there's two things. I wouldn't necessarily say the department has not done what they were supposed to do. They've taken initiatives to promote and market the available funds and initiatives within the department to assist other shops. It is up to the public to then respond and take up space and apply for these particular funds such that they can be dispatched and made available to them. And when they apply, they also need to make sure that they adhere to the processes and conditions that are attached to the application process to fast check and make it easy for the department to approve and have a track record in terms of the people that are benefiting and the validity thereof from these particular programs. However, as a recommendation, I do want to repeat that for me, as a person that comes from a village, we took really a pride from local shops that were making available all kinds of goods to the community when we grew up. But now, reality is that when I go back home, those shops are not in place. They're no longer there. And the buildings are just standing empty, if not being occupied by our counterparts from the neighboring African countries. And that is not to say that that is an issue, but perhaps as South Africans, we need to then, the departments need to help intensify the drives to encourage the culture where communities understood that entrepreneurship and selling small goods is a form of measure that can assist to alleviate poverty, and it is a very honorable thing to do and job. It's not necessarily that everybody needs to go and be employed for them to be able to provide for their families to partake in the economy. So the recommendation from our side is that the department needs to intensify the drives where they promote the initiatives that are available, that they need to intensify the drives to really spark interest and inspire people to partake in small businesses such as puzzle shops in the rural and township village. And then they must be supported with resources as well as just business skills to be able to make sure that from buying your stock, selling it to the community, you don't then take the profits and use them immediately. You have to reinvest in your business for it to grow and thrive, for it to be able to then start employing other people in the community, and then everyone gets to partake and participate in the economy and alleviate poverty. And also perhaps the other additional thing the department could do is to say with application processes, there can be assistance. I think one of the members did ask if perhaps the online program is the challenge. That might be the reason. So the department does have initiatives, I think in the townships, it's institutions or places that they call as hubs, where then people can also go there to get assistance in terms of the application process. So those would be the recommendations on our side in terms of that particular initiative. And then the member also asked a question relating to us rating consequence management in the department and the accountability framework. Chairperson, I think it would be unfair of me or premature to at least at this stage pronounce on the status of consequence management and accountability framework in the department without having done a thorough verification to say this is now the condition and this is what the department has done. I indicate that we are at the very early stages of planning the audit for 21-22. I'll only be in a position to pronounce on the status of consequence management within the department once we have conducted the audit for 21-22. And perhaps at the end of my commentary, I'll also give an opportunity to my colleagues to reflect on the issues of consequence management that we had reported in 2021, if any, Mr. Kenny Motlala. But for now, I'll talk to the root causes for financial reporting. So, Chairperson, I think root causes for lack of adequate financial reporting and in accordance with the relevant framework, which revolves from modified cash standards as well as GRAB, which is applicable to the public entities within the portfolio. As a start, Chairperson, I mentioned that management, through the delegations that they receive from the accounting officer, they have a responsibility to prepare the annual financial statements. They have the responsibility to prepare the small day-to-day tasks that lead up to the preparation of the annual financial statements. And all those events, when they occur, somebody is responsible to secure evidence to support the particular transaction that has occurred, the particular event that has taken place. From there, another person is responsible to record this in the record, in the financial records of the institution. And another person has a responsibility to review within management this particular record to against the supporting evidence that has been made available to ensure that it is actually valid, it did okay, and it relates to the financial period under which it is being reported. It is correctly classified in the nature of the event or the transaction that has taken place. All the transactions that have been implemented, they are in accordance with the relevant laws, and they are in the process of discharging the responsibilities of the institution. So the office of the CFO then is responsible for putting together the consolidated report, which we call the annual financial statement, which must be reviewed against the supporting evidence. And that evidence then needs to be made available to the auditors when they come and request for it. But over and above that, before the external auditors get there, there is internal audit. Internal audit has a responsibility to consult with management on the areas which they have challenges on in terms of implementation of the requirements of the standard. So departments and the public entities need to take advantage of internal auditors and really make use of them to discharge and ensure that the internal controls that are put in place are adequate to ensure financial reporting is done in accordance with the relevant reporting framework. And then also, once these financial statements have been completed, there needs to be sufficient time given to the internal auditors to ensure that they perform their procedures and they are able to give assurance in terms of the quality of the set of financial statements that have been made available. Then built into that, there's also the audit committee that has the responsibility to then take the issues that are coming through from the internal audit and then hold management accountable in terms of these are the issues that have been identified by internal audit. Have these issues been corrected? What is the department doing for the future to ensure that these areas of concern do not reoccur? And once those internal controls have been put in place, then the audit committee can successfully recommend to the accounting officer to say, this is a credible set of annual financial statements that can be relied upon by users such as government to reflect in the past performance of this institution and also account on how the public funds have been utilized to advance the mandate of the institution. And then the accounting officer as the oversight role player, having these supporting acts that are providing inputs and are giving insights in terms of what has transpired, what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, then has to drive and ensure that the department and the institutions really do take actions and implement the recommendations from the relevant assurance providers. So that is in a nutshell some of the issues where you will not break down in terms of those processes, which then ultimately results to the and less than desirable audit outcomes in terms of financial reporting, audit opinion, or audit outcomes. And if then management go back to the basics and implement these steps to ensure that they all build together, work towards and producing and submitting a credible set of annual financial statements without there being the external auditors to bring issues to their attention and enable them to correct them. The external auditors are just there to say, okay, this is what you expected to do. This is what you have done. Does it comply with the relevant prescripts? And then be able to express an opinion thereon. So these are the issues that these institutions need to weigh on and ensure that they really strict and make sure that they are happening, and there's timeless plans to do all of these things such that then there can be a realization of the desired result. And the issue of the forensic report, I did already respond to it, Chairperson, and the last question, I think it was directed to yourself and you've already responded. And I think I've come to the end of my responses, unless there's something that I've forgotten.
No, thank you, Ms. Matiyani, for your comprehensive, very detailed responses. I think it's both educative, it's empowering for us as members, but it also gives us confidence that you are thorough and the AG is well led in this department. So we also want to acknowledge your professional way of how you're conducting this presentation. Members, it seems that we're coming to the end of our portfolio committee. I want to make one or two concluding remarks, but let me check with the portfolio committee staff if there is any other announcements before I do and close the meeting. Mr. King.
Thank you, Chairperson. We don't have that much announcement, but just to indicate that this has been our last meeting for this quarter. And we also like to extend our appreciation to AG in responding in our last day of the meeting. We did receive their apology previously where they indicated that they were held up. And then I should think we'll also keep in touch with them in trying to capacitate the committee in all the methods and the capacity on implementing their functions. So to members will say we are going to a recess, and then the committee will resume on the 19th of April for a week, where we'll be dealing much more with the APPs of the department in producing the budget voter report, which will be expected to be debated on the 10th of May. So now we'll be having the week between the 18th and the 20th, and then NA will go to leave period between the 25 till the end of April, and then we also going to resume thereafter. I think our meeting will be around the 4th of May, trying to finalize the budget vote report, and then we are expecting that the budget vote debate will be on the 10th of May. So those are the announcements so far that you can have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for those announcements. I'm sure members will get the program. I see Honorable Kruger. Honorable Kruger, let me give you an opportunity before I close.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a correction on King's announcement. It's not a recess, it's a constituency period. Thank you. Politicians and MPs don't rest. We're going to work very hard in our constituencies now.
I was gonna make that point, but thank you, Honorable Kruger. It's indeed true that our parliamentary work might be in recess, but all of the members, honorable members that's in the platform expected to report to your constituency. And so for the next 2 weeks, you are expected to be on the ground, working and bringing Parliament to our people. And so I'm sure you will do that diligently. I want to wish you all very well in your travels. Just to conclude with today's presentation, I think we've received a very realistic sense of where we are with small business, and the AG has also given their impressions, gave us a very important report. We note the under expenditure during the COVID period. It was a very difficult time. There has been lots of applicants, and I think there was big room for improvement. Luckily, we did not pick up wholesale corruption, but I think what we did pick up was a inability of the system to manage the application. So there is areas for room for improvement, but also more important, consequence management. I think this portfolio committee notes the outstanding forensic report of the 5th administration. I think members have raised that. So if our portfolio committee staff can also again remind the AG and the department to provide us at an appropriate time feedback on that, because there were some cases, outstanding cases that needed to be sorted. I think as South Africans, and I think this is a very important point that I want to emphasize, that this government is trying to, with its limited budget, is trying to make funds available. I think through all its different programs, whether it's the Spaza Shop program, whether it's the township and rural support program, whether it's the relief, the debt relief program. This government is trying to make funds available, access to finance, especially for small and informal businesses available. And whilst we've made significant progress, there is great room for improvement. Under expenditure on this is not acceptable, and our officials must be able to spend all the money. We must also be able to get South Africans to apply. So that's the other big challenge I take away, that yes, we complain about our foreign nationals being in our townships, but we also want to encourage South Africans to take these opportunities to apply, to register their business and use these opportunities to access the funds and also become sustainable businesses. But in turn, we're also calling on the officials from the department and its entities to be more responsive. I think there has been a call that maybe the online, our capacity in our townships and the rural dorp is not that big. So we want our government officials to help to ensure that we do get projects supported in our communities. But I think there's more to be done. I think I am also excited to hear from the National Development Plan and the audit of where we are. We've noted the Township Economic Growth Bill coming out of Gauteng, and I think we want to see how far we can push and improve township economies going forward. We've also received the report on the Competition Commission, which also paint a bleak picture on market concentration and how big companies are doing. And so that's also something that we need to follow up. So members, I want to wish you well. Continue your work in your areas and be safe. Spread the message of vaccination. We want to have a strong campaign, especially to our younger members of our society, to get vaccinated. We're relaxing all of the regulations, but this COVID, if we really are going to put it behind us and we want to stimulate our economy, we want to encourage everybody to be vaccinated. For that, I want to thank members for allowing me to act in this capacity today, and wish you well for the constituency period, and be safe. And then we'll all see each other when we resume again, I think on the 19th of April. So thank you very much.
Must go and vaccinate. Jan de Villiers is not vaccinated. Long live the chair.
Long live the
Ek weet nie waarvan jy praat nie, my ou maat. Jy moet eers duidelikheid kry voor jy op hierdie komitee praat, hoor. Jan de Villiers is gevaccineerd.
Kruger is nie gevaccineerd. Kruger moet vaccinate.
Ek is
Leave the people
gevaccineerd met
alone,
Close.
vaccinate the cows.